Hello, video diary. Put these on right. It's so gray. These make it look sunny. And I need that today. Today I'll play through, or have played through, the music of Barrios, Bach, and Coltrane. A lot of Coltrane. I had a breakthrough yesterday. It had been building up for a few days, and it has to do with a Coltrane tune, John Coltrane tune, Moment's Notice. Yeah, and it was like, I realized, like, wow, if I can do this thing at a fast tempo, I can slow it down and it'll sound great at a slow tempo. I mean, this sounds so obvious until you learn it yourself, I guess. And one thing's for sure, on my guitar journey, I guess I haven't spoken too much about this, but a few years ago, the group that I had run its course, and people had, needed to go on to have families. That it was quite a side career, and we had a gig in downtown New York City at a great club. And I started in this club. I guess overall I played there for about 11 years. And it's great to think that you could have such a relationship with one place that could be so dynamic and fun. And and that was a business that got edged out of New York eventually. A lot of clubs, a lot of theaters got priced out of New York, and culture went with it. I'm sure we would, or some version of my group would still be working there. And I had Saturday nights or Friday nights at the last slot, so we could do whatever we want. And later I learned that the owners used to watch our show in bed, because they set up a camera to make sure everything went okay. But they were fans, and when that ended, I felt very unsatisfied with my playing. And even though there were people around me that would tell me, "Oh, you're a great guitar player," I knew better. Um, I knew. Well, let's say I knew that I just didn't understand what was going on um, in the internal mechanisms and flow of music, the as it related to how quick I could access it freely on the guitar. And so this would transcend, like, a good player, they can sit in and play all kinds of genres of music, with the exception of things that rely heavily on skilled patterns. You have to you have to know those. But in terms of being able to just be able to play what you're hearing, um, I I felt really dissatisfied. And there are so many great players, and I love everybody's input and sound, and you just have to find out your own, and you already know it. You just we haven't actualized it because it takes a lot of sustained investigation, practice. There was a point where I was practicing sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day. And that was because Jimmy Bruno in one of his YouTube videos was like, yeah, it's easy. You just go like this and you do this, and then he'd say, like, when we were kids, we knew that, if you wanted to be good at this, yeah, you had to practice, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day. And he just threw that out there. And I knew that he was telling the truth. Having said that, there's a sweet spot of the amount of hours that you want to put in. You want to be smart. And I've practiced for years, for years. I had gigs. I had all kinds of, periods in my life where I was employed as a guitarist or a composer or sound designer. I fronted several kinds of groups, etc. I went to school. I got a degree in music, in music education, which actually required me to study all the history and compose. I had great teachers who I worked with here in CUNY, and I still didn't feel like I knew what was going on in the mystical flow, like, and just being good, just not sucking. Let's say being able to read through a chart. Like today, I read through something. There was a time I just couldn't do that as well, and that's all. And being able to recognize, like, oh, this is a D minor chord. It's going to an A seventh chord. It's going to a C seventh chord. Like, and what are also the options and different ways of understanding harmonic progressions. Those can also illuminate how you'd move through them and bring a very, beautiful thing. By the way, all of this is beautiful. When you do it, it just feels so good. I was thinking about this sounding good, but it feels good. And in these days when I've been just incredibly depressed, it's this and exercising, which I want to say a little bit about because it's related, have been the ways I've been positively medicating. Let's put it that way. So I was dissatisfied with my playing and I was trying too many things also. Like I was playing flamenco guitar, which I still do. Jazz, I love country guitar. I was always playing rock, but any one of those things is its own lifetime, and eventually I was able to understand, like, to just play free without any, at least from where I'm coming from, the word jazz was the best, because in that is contained any kind of genre of music. It's really just understanding harmonic chord progressions. Eventually, I let go of the pick, which was just one more thing to let go of. As much as I love pick players, and I just, and I was okay, but I always wanted to play with my fingers all the time, and so I did. And then that put the onus on me to say, like, okay, well, I have to be able to play as quick and not sound like, pluck, pluck, pluck. Make it sound as good as a pick or better, because then there's things that I can do that picks players can't do because they're restricted to one sound, where I had multiple, like flamenco has. So there's that, because that's a big part of it, how you generate your sound. And then there's just like learning, just like the brain work. And I got a great teacher and teachers, and I put myself through school. I was going to go back to the graduate center to do a degree, and I realized, like, if my outcome is to be able to play what I want I don't need to go to school. I need to take myself to school. Having said that, the people that I work with are at New School and various other institutions and associations all over the place, like everybody I play with now. So that distinction of people that are in academia or not kind of melted down with just the awesome people kind of emerge and you learn from them. And there's like adult resources. So yeah. And that was one of the things I was like inviting Forrest into, was this incredible world of unlocking yourself through, in my case it's the guitar, but it's really through your voice, through any instrument, through your body, through sports, through art, whatever. But specifically here it was through really getting your connection to music from inside you to be able to emerge outside of you, and that requires skill, man, and it's hard. And I could have stopped and just said, you know what, I don't have to do this to myself. you know I could even like turn myself into a marketable whatever by just using the best of my talents and my intelligence and humor. But I was unsatisfied. I wanted to be able to do it. I want to be able to take a solo. I want to be able to write tunes in whatever idiom and play whatever I hear and not be limited, like I heard other people do. That's really important. When you hear somebody do the thing that you, or see them do the thing that you want to do, boom, you're done, because you realize that another human being has done that, and therefore you can. Um, you know, but you'll be unique. You'll be your unique version of whatever that is. But it is possible. And this was my journey. And I was graduating myself, if you will, over this last summer. So I was like finishing this body of work that I had put myself through with this stuff. And then, Forrest was visiting, playing this workshop with these great guys, and then visiting and hanging out with family and and then dies, right? Like a week or two after that. Yeah, I don't know, a little history of what motivated and gave my life meaning. And it's been hard. I have realized that I am not capable of entertaining, and that was a big part of what I used to do. Like it was be able to do these things, but get out in front of people and do stupid shit. I would have rip off pants and frilly panties, and we would just break the rules, and have fun with music and clowning. My wife is a clown. I worked in comedy performance, prop comedy, and it's weird because I'm like that some opportunities thing has presented itself, and I'm going, why is that, why am I not jumping at anything? And it's because nothing is funny right now. I think I'm so thankful for people like Dave Chappelle and Key and Peele. I've been watching those guys because I've been able to just, to help me deal with some of my chemicals, but laughing. But nothing is funny. And I looked back in my notes, and and I remember now that I was sketching. I wasn't very far into it, but I was in a proposal to do a large piece, and it was going to be called The Addicts, and it was loosely modeled on Man with a Golden Arm, a Preminger film from I think '59, but it's it was going to be like this nightmare of addiction, with lights and sound and slow motion, performance. All of a sudden, things just go weird, and interspersing it through like a cabaret in hell. So it was like No Exit meets Man with a Golden Arm and live performance, but twisted. So it would have, I can't believe that that was like what I was sketching. And yet I couldn't detect that my son was having an emergency. We also talked, because I was reading this book about nonverbal signals, and Forrest and I talked about that because it was really super interesting. Leakages and how people point with their body to indicate their, where they want to go, or different ways in which you can detect what's really maybe being said to you. But it's not, it's no substitute for him looking me in the eyes and saying, "Dad, I'm really, really sorry. I know I'm starting, classes in a couple of days, and you just paid my tuition, but I'm on heroin." So I can only think that he didn't think it was a problem he could or should share, or it was a problem, or I don't know. People are trying to tell me that an addict doesn't think the same. And I'm telling you, I have not been able to fully accept that. I know we don't think the same. I know that when we're on like a tear and we're using, but there's some reflection there. I mean, Forrest wasn't insane when he was here. He was like chipping, right? Like where he was like doing something every day or whatever to get him, whatever part of his mental delusion about this that he had with himself with it, he thought he was maintaining. He was in a great mood.